were so adamant that they wanted this to go down that they had The Undertaker try to work an angle with Lesnar at UFC 120.
Oh yeah, I remember this interaction. Undertaker, Undertaker had a UFC show, and Brock just passes by. Like Undertaker's like, "Hey, you want to go? You want to go? You want to go? Hey, I'm right here. Let's do it." Classic moment. Classic moment. Hey, yo, what's happening, people? It's your boy Blaze here. Back to you with another one here for Venomous Reactions. And today we got a video here for Wrestlemania. And this is one mind-blowing fact for every WWE WrestleMania. Now, when it comes down to WrestleMania, you know, the hidden facts, the hidden gems, we really don't find out until some time has passed. Like, it could be months later, years later, decades later. But we're going to check this out here from Wrestlemania's point of view. It should be a good old trip down memory lane and very informative, as always. So without further ado, let's run it.
WrestleMania is the granddaddy of them all. The show has been WWE's signature event for the past 42 years. And in that time,
42 years is crazy.
Iconic moments in pro wrestling history. Naturally, due to the
So many moments.
broadcast as well as the status of the event itself, there are numerous unbelievable facts about each show that need to be heard to be believed. Join us now as Wrestlemania looks at one mind-blowing fact for every WrestleMania event. Be sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell for daily wrestling
Run it up.
videos.
Run it up.
The $1 million boots. Now, in early 2026, Hulk Hogan's boots from the first ever WrestleMania were auctioned off. The famous boots sold for over $1 million,
Damn!
ultimately making them the most expensive piece of wrestling merchandise of all.
Yo, for that piece of WrestleMania history to be worth $1 million, I mean, I get the fact it's from the first ever WrestleMania ever, but damn! Yo, I know they paid a hefty penny for that piece of wrestling history. I'm telling you. I mean, regardless of the fact of what you may think about Hulk Hogan now, that is iconic. You know, the boots he wore from the first ever WrestleMania. Who wouldn't want that? But damn.
Time. The boots even had Hulk Hogan's sweat and blood on them. They're signed and state that these are my real boots with my real blood on them from MSG. Hulk Hogan.
That's crazy.
Logan Paul did put in a bidding for it, but he ultimately didn't win. WrestleMania 2, Hulk
Damn.
Hogan vs. Jimmy Snuka was the original main event. Hulk Hogan would main event WrestleMania 2 in a steel cage match versus King Kong Bundy, but that may have not been WWE's original plan. It's widely believed that Vince McMahon secretly pitched an angle where Jimmy Snuka would turn heel, then start a feud with Hulk Hogan. The intense rivalry would culminate in a steel cage match between Hulk Hogan and Snuka in the main event of WrestleMania. Now, this was after the tragic passing of Nancy Argentino, Jimmy Snuka's girlfriend at the time. Snuka was believed to be a suspect in the case.
Oh,
and it
damn.
felt that due to that, Hogan declined, reportedly saying, "I don't want to wrestle with that crazy maniac." WrestleMania
Yikes.
3, Hogan legitimately injured himself. Hulk Hogan's relationship with the truth is definitely a topic for another time. At WrestleMania 3, Hogan took part in one of the most iconic moments of all time as he body slammed Andre the Giant. According to Hogan, the body slam took it out of him, so much so that it tore a hole in his back, and it would mark the last time that he would body slam his arch rival ever. Number 4, this double.
And that was an iconic moment. Like, you know, you got Hulk Hogan, the immortal Hulk Hogan, body slamming someone the caliber and size of Andre the Giant. But man, for that to tear a hole in his back, sheesh. I mean, it goes to show the whole cliche of the price you pay for an iconic moment. And Hulk Hogan, he definitely paid that price. The price being his back get jacked up. But damn.
WWE star was instantly demoted. When Ricky Steamboat wanted paternity leave, Vince McMahon decided to punish him on the grand stage. The talented wrestler was jobbed out during the first round of the WWE title tournament, and this would mark his last pay-per-view in WWE until he returned in 1990. Though this was under the new gimmick of the Dragon. The story goes that if he hadn't asked for paternity leave, Vince wanted him as a long-term Intercontinental Champion.
Ooh.
WrestleMania 5, a botch so bad, it had to be edited out. Robin actually missed her cue when singing America the Beautiful. The botch was so severe that it had to be edited out of future releases. When Rock and Roll was in the ring and the music started, she missed her cue completely and just stared awkwardly at the audience. Now, this was down
Damn.
to audio
Now that's
issues. That
embarrassing.
wasn't actually the case. It was just a full-blown botch. But to this day, some still believe that this was a rib on her. WrestleMania 6. Macho Man was legitimately furious. When a wrestler's hair is cut following a match, the wrestler usually has given their full consent. However, when Lanny Poffo had his hair cut at WrestleMania 6, he had no idea that this was going to happen. Poffo's fear was actually genuine, and Brutus Beefcake had to really hold him down. It was believed that Lanny Poffo was crying backstage, and Poffo's real-life brother, the legendary Randy Savage, was quite rightly extremely angry with Beefcake and WWE at the time. WrestleMania 7.
Yikes.
Tugboat. A tugboat was actually initially set for a major push at WrestleMania 7. According to Bruce Pritchard, Tugboat was actually going to turn heel on Hulk Hogan, win the WWE title, and face Hogan on the grand stage. He would also be known as Sheikh Tugboat and be an Iraqi sympathizer. The role was instead given to Sergeant Slaughter, who faced off Hogan in the main event of the broadcast. I don't think anyone could have taken that gimmick seriously if it was Tugboat.
No, it was not to be taken serious at all.
The new foundation, which consisted of Jim the Anvil Neidhart and Owen Hart, were actually supposed to be part of the 8-man tag team match on the show. However, they were ultimately replaced by Hacksaw Jim Duggan and Sergeant Slaughter. Now, in relation to why they were replaced, Neidhart was fired in February 92 for unprofessional conduct, and instead Owen was put in a singles match against Skinner instead. WrestleMania 9, Hulk Hogan.
Damn. Now that's an undercover fact that I did not know. The fact that Jim Neidhart was fired like a month before that WrestleMania, and Owen Hart was supposed to be in some sort of match, but he was later put in like in a singles match due to the unfortunate firing on Jim Neidhart. But there have been stories about his unprofessionalism and conduct. But that's a whole nother story, a whole nother time.
Wanted to face Dusty Rhodes. The WWE had bold ideas for WrestleMania 9, and one of the ideas for Hulk Hogan was him to face a heel Dusty Rhodes. Which was actually given to Hogan in the hopes that Hogan wouldn't take a hiatus from the company. There were even plans to turn Hulk Hogan heel, but they were shot down by Vince McMahon as he didn't like the idea. The heel would have likely been Dusty Rhodes if the plans went through.
Of course.
10, Ted DiBiase was supposed to make a shocking surprise. Now, The Undertaker missed WrestleMania 10 due to an injury, but it's been heavily rumored that WWE were planning on commencing the fake Undertaker storyline on the show. Ted DiBiase was doing media around this time period, and he was claiming that a big surprise was planned for the show, and this was apparently going to be the start of the fake Undertaker storyline. However, this...
Yeah, who remembered the fake Undertaker storyline where Undertaker faced off the fake Undertaker? Even then, I still find that completely insane. Like, yeah, this doppelganger Undertaker going up against the original. I guess. But this all comes from the mindset of Vince McMahon. So I'm not really surprised here.
This didn't happen, and plans to start the storyline eventually delayed to a few months after. WrestleMania 11, the rabid Wolverine in the New Generation era? Chris Benoit almost made his WrestleMania debut at WrestleMania 11. That's right, there were rumors that Chris Benoit would be Owen Hart's tag partner. According to the Wrestling Observer newsletter at the time, WWE were interested in Benoit and wanted to propel Hart and Benoit at the top of the WWE tag division. It was reported they announced 2 more matches for Mania: Luger and Davey Boy Smith versus Big Brothers and Guns defending against Owen Hart and a mystery partner. No word on who it is, but I do know that they are or were interested in being Chris Benoit and shooting them immediately to the top of the tag division. And Benoit wouldn't make his debut.
Oh, wow.
Instead, Yokozuna would ultimately fill in the role, and Benoit would go to WCW. WrestleMania 12.
Now that I did not know. I didn't know they had interest in Chris Benoit back then. But ultimately, things changed and he wound up going to WCW, and you had Yokozuna fill the void of the mystery partner. Oh, wow. That's one fact I did not know. I was today's year old when I found this out. But intriguing, but informative.
Plans had to be changed due to Yokozuna's weight. A match between Yokozuna and Vader was heavily promoted heading into WrestleMania. However, WWE had to change direction when Yokozuna's weight became out of control. The match would then change to a 6-man tag, which would limit the amount of time that Yokozuna would have to spend in the ring, as there was no way that he was going to go a full match on his own. WrestleMania 13, the Sultan was made for Sabu. Now, the Sultan wrestled at WrestleMania 13 and he would go on to play the legendary character known as Rikishi Fatu. However, the gimmick was actually made for Sabu, and the idea is that the character would have his tongue cut out. Sabu was the one who turned this down as he felt it was disrespectful to his uncle, the original Sheik. WrestleMania 14,
that makes sense.
The moment legitimately pissed off Shawn Michaels. Now, Shawn Michaels wasn't actually best pleased at WrestleMania 14. Not only had he seemingly had his final ever match in WWE, but Mike Tyson had gone off script after the match. It's widely believed that Tyson draping the DX shirt over HBK wasn't initially planned, and HBK was utterly embarrassed by the act. WrestleMania 15.
Oh, damn. I did not know that Mike Tyson went off script, but yeah, I can see why Shawn Michaels would be pissed at that, but damn. That was such an iconic finish to an epic main event with Stone Cold and Shawn Michaels. Far be it being HBK's last WrestleMania match until like 4 years later, when he's fully healed up from his back injury and everything. But damn, Mike Tyson going off script. Not shocking, but shocking at the same time.
Why was Austin wearing a t-shirt? Now, something was really off when it came to Stone Cold Steve Austin's entrance at WrestleMania 15. Traditionally, Austin would come down to the ring wearing his iconic vest. However, for his match
that is true.
Rock, he would oddly wear a t-shirt. Now, it turns out that he somehow forgot to pack his vest, and this was mainly due to Austin's mind being focused on his divorce, as his head was in a total mess at the time. Thankfully, despite forgetting the trademark vest, Austin was still able to deliver the goods in the ring. WrestleMania 2000.
Absolutely.
It marked the first time a black wrestler won a championship at WrestleMania. It was actually Viscera who made history at WrestleMania 16 or WrestleMania 2000. Viscera won the Hardcore title briefly in the Hardcore Battle Royal, and this is actually notable as he became the first ever black wrestler to win a title of any kind on the grand stage.
Now that's something I did not realize. I didn't catch that year's WrestleMania, but you know, Viscera being the first black wrestler to win a title of any kind on the grandest stage of them all. Yo, that's major. That is major. You know, rest in peace to Viscera, bro.
Noted that black wrestlers have won matches where titles were involved, such as Men on a Mission at WrestleMania 10 and Junkyard Dog vs. Greg Valentine at WrestleMania 1. However, a title change never took place, as both were won by a countout. This is legitimately the first time ever. WrestleMania 17. Is it Goldberg? Numerous infamous gimmicks appeared in the gimmick battle royal at WrestleMania 17, and one of them was actually supposed to be Gilbert. However, at the last moment, WWE...
Oh my god.
According to Gilbert, WWE were convinced that Goldberg was legitimately coming into the company, and they were concerned how he would react if he saw the infamous parody character. Something he still hates.
Oh, he would have been pissed.
WrestleMania 18. The Dead Man had a choice. The Undertaker having a say in his WrestleMania opponent was a given by 2002. And for WrestleMania 18, Vince McMahon gave him the choice of Rob Van Dam or Ric Flair. Now, of course, the Dead Man picked Flair, and the Dead Man
of course he did
for doing so on his podcast. I remember Vince McMahon coming to me that year. I didn't have an opponent, and he comes up to me and he's like apologizing to me. He goes, "Mark, yeah, we booked all of this out, and I don't have anybody for you." He says you can either have RVD or Flair. And no, nothing against RVD, because I had really good matches with RVD. I was like, Flair. He looked at me like, what? I'm like, I want Flair. And Taker and Flair would then go on to have one of the more underrated WrestleMania matches of all time, with the Dead Man often citing this as one of his personal favorites. WrestleMania 19.
Honestly, that was a good, solid match with Undertaker and Ric Flair bringing his WrestleMania record to 10-0. I mean, given the fact that there were a few botches in that match, I will say that. But despite the botches, classic match between the Dead Man and the Nature Boy. Woo! Love to see it.
Stone Cold Steve Austin was hospitalized hours before the show. Now, the original plans for WrestleMania 19 were for Stone Cold Steve Austin vs. The Rock Part 3 to main event the show. However, the day before the show went live on the air, Austin was admitted to hospital, and it was due to him having consumed excessive amounts of energy drinks. McMahon was concerned that Austin was in no fit state to perform, so he made the executive call to move the match down the card, and instead Brock Lesnar vs. Kurt Angle will receive the honor of main eventing. WrestleMania 20. Not quite the
that's crazy.
WrestleMania 20 saw the return of the Undertaker's Dead Man persona, but one man that was firmly against the move was the Undertaker himself. Taker was a big fan of the American badass / big evil persona he portrayed in the early 2000s. and he
Of
felt like the
course.
Deadman character restricted him greatly. A compromise was reached in early 2004, and whilst the Deadman character would indeed return, the moveset of the American Badass would be kept intact, and this allowed The Undertaker to have stellar matches that weren't restricted due to his gimmick. Another interesting fact about the Deadman's return was that initially he kept the bandana from the old gimmick during his entrance. However, this was quickly removed, as it's possible that WWE didn't feel it matched the Deadman aesthetic. WrestleMania 21, Randy Orton's big mistake. Now, Randy Orton wasn't exactly the nicest guy in the world early on in his career. Now, WrestleMania 21, Orton made a fatal mistake. Orton was due to rehearse his match versus The Undertaker the day before the show, and due to Orton staying out the night prior, he missed the rehearsal completely. Orton has admitted how big of an error this was, and it was even made worse by the fact that Orton's dad was part of the rehearsal, so he felt like he let him down. It was even heavily rumored that WWE were going to consider have Orton break the streak at WrestleMania 21, but after Orton no-showed the planned rehearsal, it's likely that WWE erased this possibility out of their minds completely. WrestleMania 22.
Yo, that's crazy. Because honestly, the match they had, you would have thought Randy Orton was going to break the streak with that counter from the chokeslam into an RKO out of nowhere. And by far, it's up there with one of my top 10 favorite RKOs out of nowhere. Because my heart stopped. Like, I thought he was going to, like, break the streak. But now that I'm finding out that he missed the whole match rehearsal, yeah, that can hinder him doing that. Because rehearsing the match is vital. I mean, especially on the grand stage of WrestleMania. I mean, you want to make sure there are no botches or as very few botches in a match as possible. But, you know, Randy Orton, I mean, he even attested himself that back then, he was a bit of a dick. And he had this careless attitude early on in his career. But he had to go through that growing pain of, you know, growing up in the business and pretty much growing while in the business, if that makes any sense. But yeah, I can see how that hindered him shattering the streak and all, but yeesh.
The streak was almost broken. Now, The Undertaker's iconic WrestleMania streak,
I think I know where they're going with this.
2006. Vince McMahon had initially booked Mark Henry to defeat Taker at WrestleMania 22. This would have been a bold move to say the very least, as Henry still wasn't fully connecting with the crowd, and it would still be a few years until he came into his own into the company. Thankfully, McMahon would pivot on this direction, and The Undertaker would go on to defeat Henry in an underwhelming casket match. WrestleMania 23, Shawn Michaels vs Booker T. When Triple H tore his quad at the start of 2007, this sent WWE into panic mode. Triple H was initially set to face John Cena in a WWE title rematch on the grand stage, but now these plans had to be changed immediately.
Yeah, they had to call it audible.
Shawn Michaels into Triple H's spot on the card, and HBK's initial planned match was for him to represent Donald Trump in the Battle of the Billionaires. It's believed that Vince McMahon's representative would have been also different, as numerous reports indicate that this would have been King Booker. WrestleMania 24, the original.
That would have been something intriguing to see. I mean, Shawn Michaels and King Booker in the whole Battle of the Billionaires match, but with Triple H being out, I mean, they had to call an audible and they had to rotate pieces on the chessboard, so to speak, and put Shawn Michaels in Triple H's spot for the WWE Championship match against John Cena, and Bobby Lashley and Umaga, they had to be moved in place for the Battle of the Billionaires. Battle of the Billionaires match. I keep on getting tongue-tied. What the hell? But y'all get what I'm trying to say. But sometimes you got to call the audible when pieces on the puzzle are not there at the moment due to injury. It happens, and it becomes a norm in the wrestling business.
Money in the Bank winner was supposed to be, but Jeff Hardy was arguably the biggest star in pro wrestling in 2008. WWE
oh yeah, he was over.
All in on Hardy, so much so that they were planning on having Hardy win the Money in the Bank ladder match at WrestleMania 24. Sadly, shortly before WrestleMania 24, Hardy would fail a wellness policy test.
Oh,
a major issue for WWE,
that sucks.
He was also the reigning Intercontinental Champion. WWE would be forced to pivot as Chris Jericho would defeat Hardy on Raw for the title, and his Money in the Bank win would end up going to CM Punk. All hope wasn't lost for Hardy as he didn't lose his connection with the fans, and he would eventually end 2008
Oh yeah,
as
he
the
was
WWE
over.
champion. WrestleMania 25. The math ain't mathin'. WWE marketed WrestleMania 25 as the 25th anniversary of WrestleMania, and this marketing move led to a ton of criticism. WWE actually got this completely wrong, as it was in fact the 24th anniversary of WrestleMania,
Oh,
and the 25th anniversary of
damn.
WrestleMania was in 2010. No doubt those in the creative team were scared to bring this up during meetings, and Vince
Ouch.
McMahon was probably convinced that he had his maths correct. WrestleMania 26. Yoshitatsu's win was historic. Yoshitatsu would win the pre-show battle royal at WrestleMania 26, and whilst this win meant nothing in terms of WWE's landscape, years later Tatsu's win would have major significance. As things stand, he's the last male Japanese wrestler to win a match in any capacity at WrestleMania. Tatsu would even drag this
That's
in a promo for
insane.
Pro Wrestling Now in 2026, and this led to a significant discourse when it came to WWE's presentation of Japanese talent. WrestleMania 27, 3 years early. The WWE wanted Brock Lesnar to return for WrestleMania 27, and they were so adamant that they wanted this to go down that they had The Undertaker try to work an angle with Lesnar at UFC 120.
Oh yeah, I remember this interaction. Undertaker, Undertaker had a UFC show, and Brock just passes by. Like Undertaker's like, "Hey, you want to go? You want to go? You want to go? Hey, I'm right here. Let's do it." Classic moment. Classic moment. But I can see why they say 3 years earlier. I mean, they were trying to have Brock Lesnar come back and pretty much do what he does best: seek, destroy, go home, and repeat. I get it now.
Lesnar would have no interest in returning to WWE, as there was still bad blood there following his exit back in 2004.
I can see why.
A year later in 2012, Lesnar would agree to return to the company, and the WrestleMania showdown with the Deadman would eventually happen at WrestleMania 30 instead. WrestleMania 28, John Cena faked a bathroom break. WrestleMania 28 featured a segment focused on Brodus Clay, but it almost never happened. According to Clay during an interview with Chris Van Vliet, WWE were running out of time on the broadcast, and Vince McMahon was about to cut his segment entirely, but that was until John Cena, who was in the main event of the show, faked a bathroom break. We were supposed to have a match with Heath Slater, but time got cut and Cena did one of the most selfless things at a guy who's the top guy who doesn't have to do things like this. He was in there and Vince was shaking his head. The match before wasn't one particular thing that they were heavy on time. They had gone over and he was shaking his head, and I think he was talking to Michael Hayes and another one of the producers, and he was like, I think we're gonna have to cut it. And all of a sudden Cena was getting right behind me, and he looks at me and goes, I have to go to the bathroom. I went, what? He's like, I have to go to the bathroom. And this was completely selfless by Cena, and he deserves a ton of praise for thinking of other talent on one of the biggest nights of his pro wrestling career.
Yo, that's the thing about John Cena. He's gonna be completely selfless and have like newer talent have their shine. Because John Cena's not the type to like bury talent. I mean, some people may disagree with me, and some people may agree with me. But when it comes down to him being selfless, especially in the ring, especially on the grandest stage of the grandest stage of WrestleMania, he is completely selfless and one other talent to get their shine. And you can't fault him for that. So hats off to the GOAT, man.
WrestleMania 29, a Total Diva storyline. It's common knowledge that Cody Rhodes' match at WrestleMania 29 was cancelled at the last moment. Rhodes was set to team with Damien Sandow and the Bella Twins versus Tons of Funk, Naomi and Cameron, and the story goes that WWE simply ran out of time. However, there's a major conspiracy theory that was shared by Rhodes that WWE never actually intended to deliver the match. According to Rhodes, due to the match cancellation being a prominent storyline on Total Divas, he believes it was designed to be content for the reality show. This has never been confirmed, but Rhodes' claims have a ton of merit. WrestleMania 30.
It does.
Vince left WrestleMania to be with The Undertaker. The Undertaker and Vince McMahon have had a long-standing friendship, so when The Undertaker was badly injured at WrestleMania 30 and needed hospital treatment, McMahon actually decided to immediately leave WrestleMania 30 to be at his friend's side. That's right, despite WrestleMania being the biggest show of the year, McMahon had no interest in finishing the show with himself at the helm. He just wanted to make sure that the dead man was okay. This real-life incident would later be used in a storyline between Undertaker and Brock Lesnar, and would even be...
And say what you want about Vince. I mean, when it comes down to the Undertaker and their friendship, you know he's always gonna be there for the dead man. And I remember that match vividly. I'm pretty sure he sustained that concussion when he took that belly to belly suplex for Brock Lesnar. I mean, I believe that's where it all started. I could be wrong, but when he had that concussion, and he tried to finish the match, and uh, even Undertaker said it himself, like, I mean, even after that, he doesn't remember WrestleMania 30 at all. That's how you know it was scary. But for Vince to leave WrestleMania to be by the Undertaker's side to make sure he's good, I mean, say what you want about the certified billionaire, but yeah, you got to give him props for doing that because he never leaves WrestleMania for any reason. I mean, he's there to make sure the show runs smooth as possible. But that particular WrestleMania, he was like, you know what? Yo, somebody take over. I got to make sure the dead man's good. Got to tip my hat off to him for that.
Directly mentioned in a promo by Paul Heyman on Raw, WrestleMania 30, the greatest reversal almost never happened. WrestleMania 31 featured one of the most iconic spots of all time.
Iconic moment.
Curb stomp into an RKO mid-air. The spot itself was executed to perfection on the night of the show, but
it was.
Orton and Seth Rollins just couldn't get it right. The margin for error was so slim, and every time they were attempting it, it kept going wrong. The two legends talked it out, and instead of removing the planned spot from the match, they decided to keep it in and hoped it would go okay on the night. And thankfully, it went well. WrestleMania 32.
Oh yeah, that moment right there, iconic. One of the greatest RKO's out of nowhere, and for something that was supposed to be rehearsed, for something that wasn't rehearsed, it went off. Bravissimo, my friend. Absolute perfection. And sometimes the greatest moments don't often need a rehearsal. I mean, because like you said, there's like room for error when it comes to attempting it. But for them to pull it off but for them to pull it off right out the gate, salute.
An empty stadium? When Ryback vs. Kalisto was getting underway at WrestleMania 32 during the pre-show, viewers at home noticed that the stadium was basically empty. There was hardly anyone there, and this must have thrown both talents completely off. It turned out there was an electrical issue within the stadium, meaning that fans couldn't get their tickets scanned. Thankfully, this was eventually
that sucks.
WWE almost had a crisis on their hands and almost had to begin the main event broadcast with thousands of people still outside of the stadium. WrestleMania 33, the first ever change. When Naomi captured the SmackDown Women's title at WrestleMania 33, it became a notable victory, as it marked the first women's title change at WrestleMania since WrestleMania 22. This sounds completely made up, but it's true, as for over a decade, WWE
That's crazy.
to a women's title change of any kind on the grand stage of WrestleMania. WrestleMania 34, the biggest letdown in history. Now at long last, The Undertaker was going to take on John Cena at WrestleMania 34.
I think I know where they're going with this.
Classic, but in reality, Vince McMahon had already decided that he wanted the match to be a total squash. It wasn't just fans who were let down by this booking, as The Undertaker was livid, as he prepared a full-blown match with WWE's franchise guy. Also, John Cena was legitimately quite drunk as he drank a number of beers, and everything backstage was probably to take a leak.
Damn!
The real send-off for Kurt Angle. Kurt Angle had one of the retirement matches of all time at WrestleMania 35. Angle retired in a total dud of a match versus Baron Corbin, and fans firmly wanted John Cena to be the one to retire Angle due to their established history together.
Yep.
Whilst Corbin would end up receiving the nod, initial plans called for the man to retire Angle would be Jason Jordan. According to Angle during an appearance on Devon Dudley's podcast, the plan was for his kayfabe son to become his assistant before retiring him at WrestleMania.
But what I believe is,
honestly, I don't think Jason Jordan would have been a good choice for that. Like everybody wanted John Cena because of their storied history, and like John Cena's first match was against the Olympic wrestler, the Olympic great Kurt Angle, and for him to retire one of the GOATs, that would have been beneficial and would have been a way better match than Barry Corbin. I mean, I ain't gonna lie, the match with Barry Corbin, no disrespect to either one of them, but the match was ass. I'm sorry to say, it just sucked. But we got what we got, and there's nothing we can do about it.
Jason was probably going to continue on being my son. He was going to start being a pain in the ass to me. I probably would have hired him as my assistant GM. You know, he would have started making decisions for me, and it would cause a lot of animosity, and then him and I would have wrestled at WrestleMania instead of Baron Corbin. Obviously, they picked Baron, and, you know, the kid, no matter what you think about him, he's a great in-ring worker.
He is, though.
He would unfortunately force Jordan to retire, and he would end up taking on the role of a WWE producer. WrestleMania 36, The Undertaker was grieving. The Undertaker's real-life brother would actually pass away hours before filming his Boneyard match versus AJ Styles.
Oh, wow.
The Undertaker could have easily requested to shoot the match a different day, but he soldiered on and filmed for 8 whole hours. The match itself would receive universal
He definitely did.
The classic match would end up being Undertaker's final ever pro wrestling match. WrestleMania 37.
Yeah, when family emergencies come up, and it's like pretty much what can you do? What can you do? But the fact that Undertaker was able to push through that match and filming that cinematic masterpiece of the Undertaker's final send-off. Yo, I gotta give props to him because not many people would do that. Not many people would push through after receiving such tragic news. But some people mentally are built for that, to push through and grieve later kind of perspective. Wow. That I was not aware of.
Wrestlers were forced to improvise. WrestleMania 37 was held at the Raymond James Stadium in Tampa, Florida, but severe weather caused the show to be delayed for around 35 minutes, making it the first weather delay in WrestleMania history. And the delay created a atmosphere backstage because WWE had to quickly adjust its plans for the broadcast. Instead of beginning the show with matches as scheduled, the company filled the unexpected gap by sending wrestlers out to cut improvised promos. Many performers were given very little instruction before going on camera, meaning they had to come up with something to say on the spot. Some wrestlers reportedly suggested their own promo ideas, while others simply asked to speak about the upcoming matches or hype up the event. And it turns out that WWE officials were heavily pleased with how the performers handled the situation. The unscripted segments ended up adding a unique and spontaneous element to the broadcast. Several wrestlers' unexpected mic time. WrestleMania 38. This was supposed to be Triple H's last ever match. Before Triple H was forced to retire due to issues with his heart, he had a big match booked for WrestleMania 38. According to the game, he was going to wrestle Gable Steveson and hopefully set the stage for him to be a main event level attraction for the company. Stevenson's WWE run never gained any type of serious momentum, and he'd be released from his WWE contract a few short years later. WrestleMania 39. Vince McMahon secretly booked WrestleMania. Although WWE President Nick Khan firmly declared that Vince McMahon wasn't at the creative helm at WrestleMania 39, numerous sources claimed that this was untrue. McMahon secretly booked the show and even had his own separate office backstage. This came after McMahon was back in power somewhat in WWE, although it was alleged that McMahon was back in power to oversee the sale of the company. It's said that he made numerous changes to the show, including Edge defeating Finn Balor and Roman Reigns defeating Cody Rhodes. The show still received critical acclaim, but McMahon managed to get power hungry extremely quickly. The next night on Raw, he did. Back in the driving seat, and he booked one of the worst Raw shows of all time. The show was heavily banned, and it was rumored by numerous sources that talent were completely devastated that McMahon was back in charge.
Oh yeah, nobody was happy about that. Once they heard that Vinnie Mac was back in power, oh yeah, certain wrestlers was like, you know what, I'm not feeling this, and some would even go to the extremes of like, you know what, I want out. If this is going to be taking place, I'm out. But yeah, the Raw after that WrestleMania, oh brother. If you know anything about that Raw, what happened with Cody and Brock, you understand why I have a good disdain.
WrestleMania 40, Cody Rhodes went off script. Cody Rhodes winning the WWE title at WrestleMania 40 was one of the most iconic WrestleMania moments of all time.
Oh yeah,
and the moment was
of course.
Notable as
One of the best finish ever.
Rhodes' post-match promo was indeed planned. However, Rhodes calling out Bruce Pritchard and Triple H was never in the script. The two men coming to the ring was also not planned, and it was widely reported that both names had no idea that this was going to happen. On WrestleMania 41, the first time John Cena ever did this. But John Cena spent a number of years early on in his career as a heel. But the crazy thing is that WrestleMania 41 marked Cena's first ever match at WrestleMania as a heel. Cena would of course compete in his final ever WrestleMania at this event, as he would defeat Cody Rhodes to win his final ever WWE title. Well, there you have it, folks. One mind-blowing fact for every WrestleMania. Let us know your mind-blowing facts in the comments down below.
I go hold you. I mean, John Cena winning the historic 17th World Championship ever at WrestleMania. I mean, it's a big moment, but in my opinion, it got tarnished due to the people that was involved. I mean, you had Travis Scott, out of all people, involved in that decision. And for the life of me, I just... John Cena's heel turn could have been so much better. It could have been so much better if they did it correctly. And not have who we had involved in the heel turn. I mean, I'm just saying. But we got what we got what we got. There's nothing we can do about it. But honestly, a whole lot of unknown facts about WrestleMania that I didn't even know about. And it's a good trip, going down memory lane and everything, and finding out the facts that even shocked me. So WrestleMania, well done. But I want to know, out of all the WrestleMania facts that we all didn't know, which one shocked y'all the most? You already know what to do, man. Let the comment section have it. And as always, thank y'all for tuning in. Hopefully y'all enjoyed this one. And don't forget to tell your peoples across the globe. Don't kick it with your boy just one good solid time. And please do follow your boy on social media or right over yonder. And this is your boy Blaze Insane Chuck the Deuce, and I will see y'all in the next video. And I am out.